For a while, the Oregon Ducks were the best team in college football until they lost to Ohio State in the playoff. After beating the Buckeyes earlier in the year, they ended up falling to them in the postseason. A big reason for Oregon being really good in 2024 was due to their tremendous transfer portal haul last year. They got guys such as Dylan Gabriel, Peyton Woodward, Jabbar Muhammad, Evan Stewart, and Jay Harris. The Ducks got plenty of talented guys last year, and so far their 2025 class looks just as talented and could be super high impact for 2025. Today, I want to try out a new series on the channel where I basically go through a team's transfer portal class and talk about the guys, talk about who they are, and how I think they'll end up impacting the team for the next year. We're going to start out with the Oregon Ducks, but before we get going, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to take a quick moment to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's get started and talk about Oregon's 2025 transfer portal haul. So according to 24/7 Sports, Oregon currently has the number 11 transfer portal class, but honestly, I think it's a little bit deceptive. The Ducks currently only have 8 transfers, which is well below the average, and they could still add more talent, as any big names that come into the portal in the next few weeks or over the spring will probably get an offer from the Ducks, and they'll be able to upgrade and have even more talented players. But before we can talk about our first guy, be sure to go down in the comment section below and let me know which team I should do a transfer portal breakdown for next. Okay, so there are a total of 8 guys that we need to talk about for Oregon, and I'm going to do this in terms of how impactful I think they're going to be. The first guy we're going to talk about is Alex Harvey. Okay, so Harvey is potentially the least impactful of these guys, but still has high upside. Coming out of Buda, Texas, he was part of the class of 2022 and actually went to Tyler Junior College. At 6'6" and over 300 pounds, he was considered a top 75 junior college player, and then originally ended up at Colorado before playing at Texas State in 2024. He played in 4 games in 2024, and then this past season took off and became one of the better offensive linemen in the portal. He chose the Oregon Ducks, and I'm not quite sure if he's going to start, but he should at least have an opportunity to compete. The Ducks have had some decent tight ends over the last few years, and Jamari Johnson might have an opportunity to be the next great Ducks tight end. Coming out of Louisville, he was rated as a 4-star transfer, and after originally going to Inglewood High School in California, Johnson ended up originally going to Louisville. During his time with the Louisville Cardinals, he ended up having his breakout season in 2024, catching 13 passes for 158 yards and a touchdown. With Johnson being 6'5" and being super athletic, he'll have an opportunity to fit well in this Oregon offense and should catch a lot of passes from Dante Moore and definitely has NFL potential. Okay, so at number 6, we get to a guy who I think is super high impact, and that is going to be corner Terron Johnson. Johnson ended up coming out of Indiana as he went to North Central High School and was a part of the class of 2021. He honestly was a hidden gem coming out of North Central, as he was only listed as a 3-star recruit and ultimately ended up at Northwestern. Over the last couple of years, Johnson's become one of the better defensive backs in all of the Big Ten, as this past year, he had 40 tackles, 2 interceptions, and 10 pass deflections. In total, in 3 years with the Wildcats, he has 103 tackles, 18 pass deflections, and 3 touchdowns, and also had a pick 6. Terron Johnson definitely has NFL potential in my eyes, and he is coming to Oregon to have an opportunity to start. He's not coming there to sit on the bench. He was a second-team All-Big Ten selection, is exactly what Dan Lanning wants in a defensive player, and is also super versatile. I'm really excited to see what Terron can do, and he's a hidden gem in the portal. The next guy we need to talk about is Malik Benson. Benson is honestly a little bit of a head case, as it seems like he's gone around from school to school, but still he has a ton of potential. Coming out of high school, at one point Benson was listed as the #1 junior college player in the country, as coming out of Hutchinson Community College, he was literally the #1 guy. Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, LSU, and even Oregon wanted him, and this would come after a prolific career at Hutchinson in which he broke the all-time school record for receiving yards. He had over 2,000 yards and 20 touchdowns, and because of that, he'd end up at Alabama. Unfortunately, Benson would not be able to get anything going in 2023, catching just 13 passes for 162 yards and a score, and then after that, he'd go to Florida State in 2024, catching 25 passes for 300 yards and a touchdown. In total, he has 38 receptions for 473 yards and 2 scores, but he's super athletic, has a lot of untapped potential, and hopefully will be able to fit in on an Oregon offense that'll need a new receiver to step up, with Tez Johnson now going off to the league. We'll have to wait and see, but while Benson is a high potential guy, he still has not proven it yet, so the jury is still out on him in my eyes. After that, we get to talk about another guy who should be NFL, and that is Bear Alexander. I've been hearing about Bear for quite some time, as coming out of high school, he ended up going to the prestigious IMG Academy and was at one point considered a 5-star recruit, but ultimately slipped towards the back half of the top 100 or the early top 100s. Alexander would originally decide to go to Georgia, and in his first year there, he had 9 total tackles with 2 pass deflections and 2 sacks. Again, this guy is an interior lineman, so his stats are never going to pop off the page. In 2023, he ended up transferring over to USC, where he actually had a really good year. He ended up having 47 total tackles, 2 pass deflections, and 1.5 sacks. After that spectacular year with the Trojans, he had a ton of hype for 2024, but ultimately his stats declined majorly as he only had 5 total tackles. But there is a catch there, as he'd only play in the first couple of games in order to preserve his red shirt. He's one of those guys who entered the portal early, and while I can't say I necessarily agree with that, and I don't really like it, that is what Alexander decided to do, and he became one of the top interior linemen in the portal. If he can get back to his 2023 status, he'll be one of the top interior linemen in the country, and Alexander screams a guy who will probably go day 2 in the draft and wreak havoc for opposing teams' offensive lines in 2025. These last 3 guys I think are going to be super high impact for the Ducks this upcoming fall, and the first one is offensive tackle Isaiah World. Isaiah World has an interesting story, as going back in time, he was never supposed to be here and was never supposed to be a future NFL offensive lineman. I mean, the guy was barely listed as a 3-star recruit and was a part of the class of 2021. He went to Lincoln High School, and despite getting offers from schools like Arizona and Arizona State, he would ultimately enroll at Nevada. He was listed as the number 1,682nd overall player and the number 137 overall offensive tackle, so this was not really supposed to happen for him. Over the next couple of years, though, Isaiah World, using his 6'8" frame and his extreme strength, ended up becoming an All-Mountain West player in 2024 and was one of just 2 Nevada linemen to start all 13 games. He also started at left tackle, which is one of the most important positions in football, and this guy pretty much has everything you need in terms of a big-time offensive lineman. World was considered the number 1 offensive tackle and the number 24 overall recruit in the transfer class, so this is going to be a huge get for Oregon Ducks fans. Yes, he only has 1 more year to play before he can go off to the NFL, so I think he'll end up starting for them. He's already being talked about in the 2026 NFL Draft, and with the Ducks losing Josh Connerly and Johnny Cornelius to the NFL Draft this spring, he should pop in right away and hopefully help anchor this offensive line. At number 2 for the Oregon Ducks, we have Dylan Thaman. He comes out of Westfield High School in Indiana, which is near my backyard, and they currently have one of the best players in college basketball in Braden Smith. Will Helt, a huge transfer, just ended up at Clemson, and now Thaman. Thaman comes from a football family, as a couple of his brothers ended up playing in the college world, but coming out of high school, he was only considered a 3-star recruit and was the number 74 safety in the country. After 2 years at Purdue, he has drastically increased that stock. His freshman year, he became a freshman All-American and one of the highest graded players by PFF, as he had 106 tackles with 2 pass deflections, plus 2 forced fumbles and 6 interceptions. In 2024, Thaman continued where he left off, as he once again had 104 tackles, 6 pass deflections, 1 sack, and this time did not have any interceptions or forced fumbles, but still wreaked havoc for a Purdue team that won 1 game. Thaman is an absolute star, and he's a hard-hitting guy who is super versatile and should probably be a 2026 NFL Draft prospect. Oregon and Dan Lanning love hard-hitting safeties, and Thaman is exactly what you want in that. Currently, Thaman is listed as the number 68 overall transfer in the portal, and is actually considered the number 1 safety. Oregon is stacking up with these guys, and with him having 2 years remaining, he might not even need all of them. Dan Lanning's seen a lot of rental players such as Terron Johnson, Kobe Savage, and Brandon Johnson come in and have massive success in year 1 with the Ducks. While Oregon's reputation is having 1-year rentals in corners with guys like Christian Gonzalez, Evan Williams, Kyrie Jackson, and Jabbar Muhammad, Dylan Thaman is probably the next great 1-year rental defensive back for the Ducks, and I'm pumped to see what he can do in a defense that's not inept like Purdue. Less than a week ago, the Ducks got another huge name in Tulane running back Makai Huges. He's currently listed as a top 101 transfer in the country and is considered a top 10 running back. He's a guy who should have an immediate impact, but going back in time, that was not always supposed to be the case. Coming out of Huffman High School in Birmingham, Alabama, he ended up rushing for over 1,600 yards as a senior, but was ultimately listed as just a 3-star recruit and wasn't even a top 105 running back in his class. Makai Huges ended up going to Tulane over offers from schools like App State, Army, Charlotte, and Austin Peay, and all he did in his couple of years in Tulane was win. He ended up becoming the next great green wave back after Tyjae Spears, as last year in 2023, Huges ran for 1,300 yards with 7 touchdowns, but this year ended up breaking out and exploding, running for 1,401 yards and 15 scores. Huges ended up entering the portal after a successful 2-year stint, and will now hope to go to Oregon and be running back 1. As of recording this video, Jordan James had already declared for the NFL draft, so it looks like he'll have a good opportunity to come in and be that top guy and become the next great Oregon running back in that pipeline. You've had plenty of names, but just in the last 2 years, you'll now have Jordan James, before that, Bucky Irving, and hopefully you'll hear about Makai Huges in the 2026 draft. So yeah, Oregon had a small but sweet 2025 portal haul. They had an instant impact running back, a receiver with a ton of high-end potential, an interior lineman who could go off to the NFL, an offensive tackle who's a big draft prospect, a tight end with pretty much unlimited potential, a corner with a ton of starting experience, a high-flying safety from Purdue, and then a potential starter on the offensive line in Alex Harkey. All 8 of these guys could see the field, and I could also see a world in which nearly all 8 of them make the NFL at some point. Oregon may not have gotten the most players in the world, but you could argue they have one of the most quality classes in this year's portal, and I'm excited to follow and see how these guys do. But what do you guys think? If you're an Oregon fan, what do you think of your 2025 transfer portal haul? Who is your favorite player and who are you most excited for? And what other team should I do this for next? I really hope to do this for a lot of teams, so if you enjoy it, be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and check out all my other videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.